Pleasure to welcome you here tonight as we do a couple of things. The big thing we're doing tonight is I'm introducing to you, if you don't know him already, one of the greatest talents alive today, frankly. But beyond that, someone who does what I would call and what is referred to as good work. He does good work, and I'm talking about Charles Lil Buck Riley. Charles is the 2014 Harman-Eisner Artist in Residence of the Aspen Institute. Now, you may ask, what is that? Well, about 8 years ago, Sidney Harman, the late Sidney Harman, and Michael Eisner had the idea that the arts should become a greater part, and in fact return to a greater part of what goes on at the Aspen Institute, to be infused into what goes on there. So not about, nice performances that entertain people, but where the arts actually intersect with society, ways they can make a difference, whether in education or diplomacy or economics or even national security, ways that the arts and artistic habits of mind, artists themselves, how they can speak differently, how they can deliver messages differently, all of those things which could be of great value in the conversations that go on at the Aspen Institute, which, as you know, have a huge range of things. So this post was created, and over the years, several wonderful people have had the opportunity to fulfill this post, including myself. I was one of them about 5 years ago. Anna DeVere Smith was the first, Jesse Norman, Chuck Close, Eric Fischel, artists from across the spectrum of the arts. Last year, Yo-Yo Ma, and this year, Lil Buck and the actor Alfre Woodard will be artists in residence. Now, Lil Buck didn't need a post to do this work. That's the first thing I want to say. My first work with Buck happened a little over 3 years ago, and the first thing we did was go to a school. That was the work. Later on, there were glossy, glamorous performances, but all along, that was the work. We went to China. We'll talk about that with him. We went to Detroit last week. We'll tell you about that. All along, it was about the service that the arts can bring, what the arts can do with their art form. So we are going to talk about all that, and I want to thank you all for being here to celebrate this, button, if you will, of this title, Harman-Eisner Artist in Residence, which will only allow Lil Buck and lots of artists, many of them here today, to engage, further, more fully, with more opportunities in more places, with more impact. So to get things started, I thought I'd show you a little bit about what it is that Lil Buck does, the best way one can, it's just so you can see it. So that was an introduction to Lil Buck, but more than that, it was an introduction to what he does, which is Memphis Jookin. And you may not know this, but you're about to find out. You just got a vocabulary of Jookin, courtesy of Johnny Gandelsman and Bach. And Buck and I devised this little dance for an art strike. More on that later. But it was an event at a school where he was going to introduce dance and the idea of division and how things are separated out and how you have specificity within something that may just sometimes feel like one whole thing. So tell us for 1 second what I just told them, but really explain it for a second. What is Jookin? What is Jookin?
Well, Jookin is, well, first of all, if I was to explain Jookin, I would have to tell you about gangster walking.
We'll get there.
Okay, well, so we'll get it. But okay, well, Jookin is in the context of this. I just showed you 3 different parts of Jookin, like two more branches of Jookin, basically. Jookin is more of the fluid, really smooth style of it. It's more of like, it has a lot of history in it, and it has a lot of original moves. Like, you will see the gangster walk when people are Jookin. You will see more steps like this, the original bug jumps, and just really smooth, elegant, and fluid movements.
Let's try that. Try that. Just without Johnny, just Jookin. With Johnny for a sec. Beautiful. Okay. Then what? What else you got?
Well, next we got we have a style called chopping, and chopping is basically when you just chop the beat up into different parts. Instead of everything being so fluid and elegant, it's chopped, 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 chopped. But you want to really keep, at the same time you're chopping, you want to keep a sense of musicality about it too. It'll help if everybody. Can everybody do something with me? Can y'all say chop, 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 chop?
All right. And what else we have?
And last but not least, we have bucking. And bucking is more of the explosive style of the dance. It's more of the eye-catching, oh my God, did he just do that? How did his ankle do that? It's more of the eye-catching, amazing, just big moves in Jookin, basically, like super big moves.
You want Johnny with you?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Thank you, Johnny. We'll see you in a little bit. Thank you. Wow, so that was a little vocabulary lesson. And that's just the beginning, of course, in so many ways. But what you did really is help us to understand, how to divide things up. How there's these different areas, this topography within the dance, which I just loved. And I remembered thinking that, Bach being almost like jazz, right? It just is this beautiful opportunity. I mean, when you start getting into the chop.
Yeah.
I mean, that just happens. So let's talk about what that was for, because that's really where it started. That was for an art strike,
Yes.
right? And art strike, and this is just the first of shout-outs tonight, but there's a young woman here named Rebecca Morse, who, you don't even know this, you've met Rebecca, but we had, my wife Heather and I had a little kind of strategy meeting about 4 or 5 years ago with some close friends who we considered really, smart and thorny and could come up with things, looking for something to grab onto, the way to really crystallize what the arts can do. And people came up with different ideas, but Rebecca came up with Art Strike. And Art Strike was about really having an impact fast, how the arts can go and do something quickly, capitalizing on artists' temperament and creativity. And it grew into a program where Yo-Yo Ma and I would basically, when Yo-Yo had a gig in a town, and it could not just be Yo-Yo, but other artists as well, before leaving town, you do an art strike. Instead of getting on the 10 a.m. plane, you get on the noon, and you go to a school, or you go to a hospital, or you do something of impact. So our pilot one was in Los Angeles, and we had recently discovered your work, and I called you up, and I said, hey, you want to go to a school with me and Yo-Yo Ma? And that's how it happened. So what made you want to go to a school, first of all?
Well, actually, what made me want to go was, first of all, the fact that I love kids. I love working with kids. I always have since I was a kid. I still am a kid. But I've loved working with kids for as long as I can remember, basically. Even back when I was like 10 years old, like I was just telling Damian about this story where I like helped one of my best friends and his brother like get back together into like a really good brotherly loving relationship. They were arguing, and I was like 6 years old when I did this for my friend. So I've always loved helping other people and kids per se, but I've always just love working with kids. So when you mentioned going into a school and just working with them, doing my own and just inspiring them with my own style of dance, that's what that's what I do this for. Like that's the reason why I dance, is to inspire.
Well, talk a little bit about growing up in Memphis. You first started Jookin when you were 12, and then you ended up going into schools already then.
When I was going into schools, what really got me into it was because I graduated from a visual and performing arts school called Yo Memphis Academy in Memphis, Tennessee. And this school really helped me out a lot because I went to different schools because I was born in Chicago, raised in Memphis, Tennessee. I lived in Detroit for a little bit, for a couple of months, and I was just everywhere growing up. I went to a lot of different schools, and I had a lot of different experiences in these schools, academically, just a lot of different types of good and bad experiences.
And
but when I went to the School of Visual and Performing Arts, I went to Yo Memphis, it was just an eye-opener. It was like a breath of fresh air when I first went there because, like, you go to lunch, and then there's these kids who's having lunch playing their tubas, and then, like, you have people singing on the other end of the cafeteria, and you have all this music playing, and it's like no one's coming in to stop you guys, like, hey, cut the music down, or hey, stop doing this. It's all free, and like every artist gets to have their own, gets to express themselves.
This is making a lot of sense.
Individual.
This is making so much sense because you've actually never told me that was that atmosphere.
Yes, it was just that. It was that atmosphere that I had that I was just like, wow, I would like.
And you were dancing.
Yes, and I was
to
dancing.
all of this.
To all of it.
Which really makes sense
All
when
of
you
it.
think
I would go in
about
and just take it in.
that Lil Buck is as comfortable with Bach as he is with the bagpipes. Or on and on and on, because that's your sense of collaboration. But the Memphis Jookin itself, you said it started with the Gangsta Walk. Tell me about that.
Yes, well, it started with the Gangsta Walk, and the Gangsta Walk that originated like early '80s, around the early '80s in Memphis, Tennessee. It's a Memphis-born style, and it's really sort of a line dance. It was really easy, like you all could learn it.
We may get there too.
Maybe, but
can we have that track for a second? You got that track?
I can show you. Gangsta Walking. It originated in the early '80s, and it was done by just different people in the neighborhood who just wanted to do something cool. They couldn't dance, basically.
Where legends are born.
And there's a term that gangsters don't dance. All we do is this, and in Memphis, all we did was this. The Gangsta Walk. So that was that form of dance for people who didn't really dance, but it evolved upon time. Like, so it just started off with like a bunch of people in line, like
from the east to the west, to the south, to the north. This is how the gangsters walk. Go gangster walk. Gang gangster walk. Gangster walk. Gang gangster walk. Gang gangster walk. Gangster walk. Gang gangster walk.
it was really an attitude thing. It was really an attitude and sort of confidence in your step, like you know exactly what you're doing. Easy, right? but that's the style, and that's what Jookin actually evolved from. As dance evolved and as our times evolved from the 80s to the 90s, everything started changing. And so did Jookin. Jookin evolved into, gangster walking. It evolved to what you see now.
And all along, though, I love this image of you with the tuba playing over there and a choir over there, and you were forming your own responses to that music, is what I
just
picture.
built my own world within that, because that was a whole different world that I really never experienced in regular schools and just like your basic public school, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay, but there was one particular dance which we'll see later on, but that's the dance that my wife Heather saw you online doing, the Swan. So that's a perfect example. So this is the Swan by Saint-Saëns, and tell us about how that happened, because that's really been a pivotal moment in your life.
Well, as you said, Heather, who's here right now, hello Heather. She saw me dancing. I was dancing to the Swan it was actually at a benefit for kids in Arkansas. And it was with the new ballet ensemble in school. It's a ballet school in Memphis that I was a part of, because I was a company member for this ballet school for about 2.5 years.
So you were studying ballet there?
Yeah, I was studying ballet. I was formally trained for about 2.5 years. I started when I was 17 years old. And so we were doing a show for this school, and we were driving there, because Arkansas is not that far. So we're in the car, and Katie, she was talking to me about it, and
Katie Smythe, who's the director of New Ballet
Katie
Ensemble.
Smythe is the artistic director, by the way, and she was just, she knows that I love dancing to all types of music, and she was just asking me, Buck, what do you think about dancing to this music right here? I'm just going to play this CD for you. And so she wanted me to do something there for the kids that was really inspirational and just in my own way, which I loved about her. And she just popped in a CD, and it was the Carnival of the Animals. It was the Swan, and she played it, and I was listening, and I was like, okay, I like this. Is nice. It's a nice rhythm. I like it, because I really love strings, and I never heard of Yo-Yo Ma before I danced to this, and he wasn't even nowhere. Nowhere in here. I didn't know Yo-Yo at all. I didn't even know there was a person called Yo-Yo Ma. But which I'm sure he gets all the time. But I love Yo-Yo, by the way, love him. But yeah, she played the CD, and it was wonderful. I love the rhythm, and we just listened to that CD until we got to the place, and when we got to the place, and I performed for the children, the outcome of the show was amazing. The feedback was incredible.
So from the beginning, that really had that connection.
Yeah, and it already had the connection with the kids from the beginning. They were you should have heard them, just the oohs and ahs and the oh cools and the oh my god, and all of it was incredible. I love it. I love the feedback, because when I get that, it really keeps me going, and it really inspires me to keep going as far as spreading my work around the world. And so it started like that. It started with that performance, which you and Heather saw online, and
then I called Yo-Yo and I said, Yo-Yo, you got to see this. I know you play the Swan all the time.
And they hit me up on Facebook and social media
completely.
These days.
That's how we did it.
Love it.
Facebook, YouTube, and then called Miss Katie through Facebook. Found
is the
her,
new cell phone.
And next thing you know, it all came together. But
it all came together, and
I
think you asked me about Yo-Yo, and I told you I didn't know anything about it. But when we met him in L.A., we met Yo-Yo in L.A. at the Walt Disney Hall, right? And Yo-Yo just approached me. He didn't really say much. He just saw me, and we hugged. And he was like, "You're a little Buck," and he hugged me, and it was a really big hug. And I was, we already had that connection and chemistry right then and there. And then he just uttered a couple more words, and those words were, "I want to try something." And he just opened up his case and started playing out of nowhere. And we just started this whole beautiful just piece right there. And you had to be there to just really see it. It was amazing. And
backstage at Disney Hall. Yeah. And now that's developed a long way. So we've done a lot of different projects, and we're not going to go through everything, but we were in China. That was a big one. And then last week in Detroit, that was another big one.
A lot of friends in here, too, I think, from that trip, China.
from Detroit and China,
In
lots
Detroit.
of people. China was an interesting project, and this is another, we've talked a lot about education, but I thought we just to give you some of the range, that this was really a cultural diplomacy venture. It was a partnership between the Asia Society, Arthur Ross Center, directed by Orville Schell, we're in their building, tributes, and the Aspen Institute Arts program, which I direct. And it brought together a number of United States artists to go to China, to Beijing, to hold a series of conversations with Chinese artists and leaders from the arts and culture. And we brought, Lil Buck was there, and Yo-Yo and Meryl Streep, and Eric Fischel, and a large group of people. Brooklyn Ryder, the string quartet, participated. And we did their discussions, but then we had a culminating event, which was meant to be a big collaboration. And that was directed by me, and we put together a lot of different things. But before that, we had to go through a lot of kind of ritual getting there. We were at the first meeting was with some very high officials from China who had to go through all of the things that one goes through when you think you're doing something serious, and you have people like Yo-Yo Ma sitting there, and Meryl, and everybody was this and that. And we decided that what we do is have a moment that was unexpected, which was definitely not being encouraged, and shall we say. But, the wonderful thing is that when Yo-Yo, as Lil Buck says, opens the case, people tend to say, okay, that's good. So Yo-Yo played a piece, and in the middle of the piece, at the appointed moment, I gave Lil Buck a little wink, and essentially in a conference room, Lil Buck stood up and danced. And he did float around and around, and by the end, the most serious of the officials, the woman who was really in charge, was crying. And it had a moment of breakthrough, and she hugged you, and it was...
Yeah, she was just saying how this is it. Like, this is what we're here meeting about. Like, this is the perfect example of what we're trying to get across and how we're trying to come together.
Yeah, it crystallized it, and it made it come alive, and the rest proceeded from there to that collaboration in the theater and all of that. So it was about that we really... you can't predict how that's going to happen. I have to share one other moment that happened, because you saw this from the side. But the same thing happened in the performance with Meryl and Yo-Yo. They did a poem. She did a spoken word poem of Wang Wei, Chinese poetry, classical traditional poetry, and a letter from Martha Graham to Agnes DeMille, very subversive letter about being individual, but we got that out there.
Keeping the channel open.
Keeping the channel open, exactly. And then, do you want to show what happened then at the end? Remember that?
What him and
Yeah.
who am I? Am I Meryl or
I think you be Meryl.
I'll be Meryl.
So Yo-Yo had his cello, and he went like this, and she did that, and then he got down on one knee, and she got on one knee, and he went like this. And by the end, it was something like this. On the stage of the National Performing Arts Center. Again, completely unexpected and definitely not, anticipated, but it led something to it that you just couldn't make up. And so that was China, which was really something.
Was fun.
Last week, Detroit, just to give you the full range of this is over the last 4 years, basically. We went to Detroit as part of an Aspen Institute Arts program convening with the Detroit Symphony to try and see what was going on in Detroit, essentially, how arts and culture were contributing to their revival, how it's contributing to arts education, because there's some incredible things going on there. There's an atmosphere there of actual growth all around in places in the face of all the challenges. So we wanted to go and see what was really good work. So we did an art strike at a school. That was the first thing we did. And that was Yo-Yo and Lil Buck and Christina Pato, the bagpiper who you just met a minute ago, and you'll see her again shortly. And we worked with the kids in their classrooms, and what did you think of that experience? That was a little different than some of them?
Yeah, it was different. It was definitely different from than some of them, like the ones we did at Inner City Arts and everything. But it was amazing because the kids showed that they were really into it, and they just lit up, full of it's just amazing to go into any school for me, really, and just see the reactions on the kids' faces when you go into their classrooms and get them a part of what you're doing and make them feel like they're a part of something, and just really getting them into the arts. It was incredible. I enjoyed it very much.
I mean, what happens is, and this is the thing that I mean, you see it, I guess, watching other people, but when I sat there and I watched you working with them, showing them things, bringing them to life, we did a spoken word piece about the planets. They were studying the solar system, and Lil Buck essentially was at one point, he was the sun, then he turned into a moon that was orbiting, and we talked about rotational axes and all kinds of things that cemented the learning in their heads, but they were alive. They're engaged, their senses were there, and they were just, at one point I remember I said, what if the sun stopped and then went the other way? And the looks on their faces, they were like, oh. And then they started going the other way. And Lil Buck, as the moon started going backwards, you know, the other way. And it's that engagement. And I should say that what followed that was a series of meetings with lots of the officials from the Detroit Public Schools and foundations who had witnessed all this, of course. And having you there as testament to what it can do made all the difference. Again, not dissimilar to China. But it all started at that first school at Inner City Arts with Christina Pato. I was thinking maybe we should do a little bit of that very first dance. Remember that? I remember you arrived early, Yo-Yo wasn't there yet, and Christina was there, and she started playing her bagpipe.
That's the hot feet dance, right? I call it the hot foot.
The hot foot dance.
Because, like, boy, that really got me going right there.
All
that
right.
thing is sort of a snake charm. It's like a...
That's right. So Christina is a Galician bagpiper and a pianist, and she works with the Silk Road Ensemble, and she has her own huge career here in the United States and in Spain. And she comes to schools all the time. She's a true citizen artist. And as well as these guys, please welcome back Johnny Gandelsman, along now with Eric Jacobsen, who will join us for this. And then we are going to do a little bit with Christina Pato.
In the bagpipe.
Johnny and Eric Jacobsen. Lil Buck arrived, and Christina was warming up, and he was off. I have a video, actually, of you in the back, and you're literally like this. She's going. He's going. Remember that? And then suddenly, boom!
thought you were going to actually get the work right there.
There was a moment. Yeah, it was a conversation in words and movement. There it was. And it really, and then it translated, and then we went on and through the day, and that bagpipe kept coming back, and now you've worked with that a lot. Now, so every time you hear a new instrument, does that, something?
Yeah, every time,
what do
really,
you
every
see?
time I
You've
hear
told
a
me
new
you see in
instrument.
colors, you hear,
Yeah.
what is all that?
Yeah, because, for me, there's patterns in everything, and it's kind of mathematical as far as, like, how I dissect dance styles and my own dance style and Jookin, and it's more of a, it's like whenever I hear a different pattern of sound or whenever I hear a different pitch or tune, it's a different color. Like, for instance, that bagpipe, if I were to close my eyes and really tune into it, so many colors will burst out of that bagpipe. Like, it'll be, I feel a blue, purple, I feel all type of different colors, and for high-pitched sounds, the colors get lighter and lighter and lighter, and then for the lower-pitched sounds, they get darker. And it's just like a whole, like, Wonka factory of creativity in my head going on at the same time. And I try to find an equal balance between, like, keeping that, fusing this with the reality of my movements.
So talk about a little bit about audiences. So, we struggle a little sometimes with, like, how do we deal with one audience or another audience, and we've talked a lot about the kids audience. We've talked about high diplomatic audience. You used to work on the promenade in Santa Monica. You just danced right there for people.
Yeah, like dancing on. I was a busker in Santa Monica. Good old busker. Just I was street performing back when I was coming up, and that was one of my means for just making money, doing what I love, and that was sort of a training grounds, if you may.
I think I was thinking that.
For my stage performances, because it's pretty much work. Like, it's pretty much work street performing, like, especially on that strip in Santa Monica, because there are, like, a whole bunch of street performers waiting to have a spot, and then you guys have to, like, sometimes you fight over a spot because it's like you get so many hours within one spot to perform, and it's like a real business. But performing there really was a training grounds for me, because you have to gather your own crowd in. There are people walking all over. Sometimes they'll watch from a distance, and you have to really bring them in, but make them feel comfortable at the same time to want to come see the show. So you have to learn a lot of people skills. You have to be really good with people, and you have to feel really comfortable with what you do. Performing.
There's a confidence, but there's skills to all that.
Oh yeah, you have to have skills. If you want to keep them watching and entertained, of course. So.
Yeah. I always feel that in the classroom with kids too. There's that moment when you can just see, or you need
exactly
to
when you
keep
just
them.
know what to do to grasp. To grasp their attention and to really get them into it and
to pull them back. Yeah, interesting. I want to ask you a couple more questions, and then we're going to do Q&A from the audience before we have a final dance. Who are the people that you really look up to?
That's a great question, because a lot of people will think that most of the people are like really mainstream people, like, and they are. Like, Michael Jackson was one of the people that really inspired a lot of dancers. Michael Boogaloo Shrimp, which is the guy who worked with Michael and helped teach him a lot of his dance style, like Pop and Taco, all of those guys in the hip hop world. And my actual, like, superheroes and people I really looked up to the most were my peers back in Memphis. The people that actually taught me, the people like Dr. Rico. We call him Dr. Rico because his name is Rico, and he's like the doctor of Jookin, basically. He can dissect it and tell you everything there is to know about Jookin. He can actually write his own book on Jookin and the different parts and different names and everything like that. So we call him Dr. Rico because he knows about Jookin and every other dance style as well. And people like Daniel Price, one of the people that really got me into it. He's like he was like the me of his time, back when he was really doing it as much as I'm doing it right now. Just different people back at home, really.
So the teachers.
The teachers are really like my heroes.
The teachers.
Because they're the ones who really opened my eyes to, and opened my mind to the creativity I had locked in here. Because when I was dancing, I always thought it was a form to something, because I didn't. I was brought up around hip hop dancing, which is like you're learning routines, you're learning from other people's creativity. And when I learned this dance style, it really taps you into your own creative mind and gets you to become more of a free person. And it actually helps out a lot in your own personal life as well. Like it's a really good dance style and exercise. So, my peers, just those guys.
What about the style itself? It seems to me that you've definitely developed Jookin far beyond, it's in a growth stage, it feels like. You're pushing it with all these different intersections with different music, in different kind of venues, in lots of different ways. The form itself is developing. There's more vocabulary, there's more ways to do things, there's more
there
stuff.
is, because everything...
Is there a right way to do Jookin, though? Do you feel that at all when you go home to Memphis? Is there any moments where you're like, you've gone somewhere else?
Well, it can be both, because like there is a right way of doing it, and there's also your way of doing it. And I would say the right way to a certain level and a certain degree, because a lot of people, for them to see and know that it's Jookin, you have to have certain elements from the original steps within it, like some of the gangster walking steps within it, so people can be like, oh, and they can automatically recognize that's Jookin. He has that bounce, or he's doing that buck jump, or so people can really get to know, have a good idea of what you're doing before, when they're seeing you doing it. So they won't be like, is that popping, or is that locking, or is that another dance style? Is that break dancing? So they can automatically know that's Jookin. You want to keep a lot of the original steps within it, but at the same time, to feel in between those steps, everything is up to you. It's all up to your own creativity. So it's kind of like a battle between like, do you have to do it a certain way? But it's really not. It's really just being comfortable and knowing your origin and knowing like your fundamentals and your basics and everything like that, and just
building off
of it as you go.
Okay. Well, if we can have the lights up, maybe we'll take a few questions. If you have any questions for Charles before we finish, it's perfect timing. Please just raise your hands, and I'll call on you once I can see. We have someone right over there in a red scarf. Can't quite see you. Mike is coming to you. Yeah.
Inspiration. Oh, there we go. My question is, whenever I did a bit of research before I came to watch you this evening, and everyone I saw, they were kind of doing individual performances and expressions. Is it something that can be choreographed into a group?
Absolutely. We actually have, if you were to Google or YouTube Memphis Jookin and just like really scroll down and look at a lot of different videos, you will find a lot of videos where we choreograph Jookin routines. And me and my cousin Ron, actually, we've choreographed a ton of Jookin routines, and some of them we perform in Vail at the International Dance Festival. We're performing some more of those there, and I'm actually going to be working with him a lot more into like building more routines with the Jookin, so it'd be in the public eye more.
So he's talking about Ron Primetime Miles, who any of you were at Poisson Rouge at a show that I directed last year. Lil Buck and Ron created a series of dances. They were improvisations, but there were also a series of dances that were very choreographed.
Yes.
Thinking about the Bulgar and some of the other ones that really were very specific and still maintained what I would say there were some freestyle moments, but we knew what we were doing there.
Yep,
it was
exactly.
very clear.
And as far as its own style Jookin, there's a lot of people like just me being an inspiration to the people back in my hometown. I look up videos nowadays because I'm always trying to see like what's everybody up to back at home, and I see like the young kids and they're like bending their ankles in battles and doing all types of stuff, and it's just amazing to see how my style has really influenced a lot of them. But that alone is like an opportunity for them to like for me to work with them, and for them to like for me to work with more routines within my own style, since there are other people who've been inspired to do it. And there's a lot of more people breaking their ankles now in Memphis. So we're going to start a lot more, complicated.
Yeah.
We're going to start a lot more complex dance routines and
absolutely
choreography with that.
Okay, I saw someone with their hand up right over here. Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
With a J.
The origin of the word Jookin?
Well, actually, that's a funny one because Jookin was originated just by slang, basically. If I was to put it in the simplest, just like different. Some people have different slang and a different way that they talk, depending on where they come from, or some people develop their own language. Like I have some friends back in Brooklyn who have a language called the language of the mod. And it's just basically they say mod a lot, and they use a lot of secret words to where they can have different conversations to where, like, I can say, Damian, that's a mod jacket you're wearing right now. And you guys understand that the way I'm saying it is kind of like, Damian, that's a nice jacket
That's
you
positive,
have on. But
yes.
we would say mod, and we would use other words like that, right? So that's just an example. Because
Zog.
mod is just like slang and different terminology that came from that neighborhood and from our neighborhood in Memphis. Like, we would use, like, different terms, and like it came from actually one guy just dancing and just killing it so hard that somebody was just like, yo, he jooking that beat right now, son. And it just from the way they felt, like that emotion they felt at the moment, the word was created, and we just ran with it, and it's been jooking ever since then. It's worked out awesome for us, I think. I like the word jooking.
Is Jookin the only of the styles that you know that really capitalize on the point work, on going up on point on sneakers?
Sneakers? Well, no, actually. Capitalize?
Yeah,
I
like
would
really
say,
use
like,
it.
As far as capitalizing, I would say yes.
Yeah. I mean, when we were doing some research for various things we were working on, we looked at things like Fiddler on the Roof for one dance we did. We looked at some Russian folk dancers dancing on point for some other things.
Pretty crazy,
and then
like
he
jumping on
you
point.
ended up,
All of
just
that, yeah.
jumping like that. But I find that the sneaker point work is really unique
and
to
that
what
actually,
you're doing.
actually because when Jookin was around, back when I was first getting into it, when I was around 12 years old, long time ago. But yeah, there were people weren't staying on their toes as long, and that was one thing I really wanted to. I was like, wow, I wonder if I can stay on my toe this long. How much impressive would that be compared to somebody just spinning like this and then coming back down on it? I'm like, what if I could just stay up as long as I can? And so that's when I really started capitalizing on the point, and I got a lot of inspiration from Caviar, actually, who you know very good. I have a friend named Caviar. He does jooking as well. His name is actually Caviar, yes, with K-E-V. It's awesome name. I love it. And yes, he capitalized on. We call him Tiptoe because he capitalizes on like pointing in his shoes like no other. Like I got a lot of my inspiration for being on my toes from him, and he's going to be in Vail as well. He was in Vail, Colorado for the dance festival last year, but
Really creative work, and trying to expand an art form, actually, taking steps and doing some other things. Know what I'm saying, Chase? Yeah, that's right.
What up, Chase?
Some dancers in the house. So taking that and saying, okay, what else is possible? What else is possible? But so this has been an unbelievable kind of cycle of work. You've done, I mean, there's a short bio in there, but, the work from Madonna tour to now Lil Buck is starring in Las Vegas, the Michael Jackson One show.
It's been an incredible
opened that
journey.
show. Lots of different types of work that's really added up and just keeps going. But I thought that we'd finish with the Swan, because it's sort of the base a little bit of how we came together, which I'm
how
so
we
happy
came together. Yo-yo.
And Yo-Yo and all of the work which somehow is transformative. It's like it's a transformative moment in that, and it's ballet. And I'm a ballet dancer. I can't help myself. So
It's ballet and jooking just.
It's ballet and jooking together. Lil Buck, give us a high fifth for ballet. Let's see.
If I give you a high fifth, you gotta give me something jooking. I'm just going right?
I'm there. I'm there.
I'm there. I got something for you.
I want to see your high fifth, and then I'll give you something. Beautiful. Now we can actually do something else. We can actually show you something that one of the things we do in schools we just did.
Okay, so you basically want to just imagine the sun is like in the high right corner of your eyes, and it's in the sky right now, and it's beaming so hard that you want to try to block that sunlight because it's so hot. So you're gonna put your arms up. Put your arm up in the air, right here to the right of you, and you're trying to block that sun out because it's so bright and it's shining on your head, and you want to keep it up there to the point where like you really feel it. So you slowly move your arm down to your head, like, oh my God, this sun, it is so hot, and it's so hot, and that's the feel you want to have. So you move it here, and then the next step is. What you want to do is you want to slowly move your right arm down to your heart, right here. And now, from here, you all become dancers. So what you want to do is you want to bring your arms down to a good. There you are. Let me see. You? Well, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. But you want to bring, you got a doctor's note, you got to pass. So you want to bring your arms down. And right now, this step right here, after your arms are down, is the most important step of all. Are you watching? So when your arms get down here, you all want to go. That's how I explain it to the kids. You want to go. So you're going to spread your feet into a beautiful first position. And then you're going to, okay, so your feet are going to be spread into a good first position. And then you will take your right foot and take your arms and you're going to spread them out. And then you're going to bring them in, bring your right foot in.
Fantastic.
And where were we? We were in
Somewhere outside
Long
LA,
Beach.
in Long Beach. And so when JR was asked to come to City Ballet to create some things, he said, I think I know who I want to bring with me. And so he's created this work, which is going to be performed, I believe, 7 times in a row during the first week of the season, starring Lil Buck and Lauren. So you want to be sure to see that. It's really the culmination of an experience, if you think about it, from ballet school in Memphis and all of these different things you've done and coming together.
Yeah, and it's really inspired by these riots that happened too back in Paris around the time that JR was living out there, and he was actually involved in these riots. And it's a beautiful story. It's like a beautiful story that you think is going to end in a certain way, but it doesn't quite end that way. And I don't want to give it all away right now, so make sure you guys
you go to see that. Again, it's not just it's so fitting in a way that that what JR is creating and what you and Lauren are dancing has more to it than simply performance. Because as you get the impression, obviously, from Lil Buck, there's a lot more to it than just being good. He's a terrific dancer, obviously, but he's got so many things that he's offering to all of us, to every one of us. So I thought we'd finish with the Swan, where it began, as it were, between us. And we have Johnny and Eric to help us. And if you want to bring it on in, let's do the Swan.